It's another day, the sun is shining. Got to know what's going on around you. Wake up, it's the time to motivate your mind. Come with me, let's make this moment brighter. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Come on and wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Wake up with the Bahamas at sunrise. Hey.
Good morning. I'm Carlos Maki filling in for Mark Daniels. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning. I'm Danielle Miller, filling in for Davriel Gardner.
So I guess the regular host decided that they were going to take their holiday for Labor Day, so you and I are here.
Yeah, we stepped in.
Indeed. I don't drink coffee, but I haven't had my tea yet.
I don't drink coffee either, so this
Yeah.
is just like a natural spark that comes in me. I listen to Cardi B in the morning sometimes.
No, Cardi is a bit much for me. First thing in the morning.
After the gospel music, of
After-
course.
so-
Yeah, after the gospel.
Yeah, I'm James Cleveland at least until probably midday. At least until midday. But no, it's great to be here, great to be back. Thank you all so much for being with us this morning on this Labor Day. We have a great show for you today. Of course, we're focusing on some of the key issues relating to Labor Day. Quintin Laroda is here from the Ministry of Labor, and he's going to talk about labor relations, and the Bahamas Society of Human Resource Management will join us to give us some great advice for job seekers, employees, and employers.
The Department of Labor and 242 Jobs will talk about initiatives designed to help job seekers, and we'll also talk about women's health with Doctors Hospital. TCL would like to invite you to attend the Andros Business Outlook coming up Thursday, June 15th at BAMSI in Andros. The conference will be hybrid. You can join virtually for $50 or in person for $80. Register today at tclevents.com. And now, let's check on our weather with Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Danielle, and good morning, Bahamas. And your first look at weather sunrise. But first, let me say happy Labor Day to all our union leaders and all our unionists and all the workers in the Bahamas. Let's get it together. Your first look at weather, we do have deep layer troughing along with rich tropical moisture. All of that is going to supply some showers and thunderstorms across the central and southeastern islands of Bahamas. Numerous showers and thunderstorms across that area. We have a little chance in the northwest Bahamas, a couple of showers, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high pressure, a weak one, will give us some light winds throughout the weekend. But today, partly sunny, hot and humid with a few showers in northwest Bahamas, mostly cloudy with widely scattered showers, isolated thunderstorms over the central and southeastern islands. Some of those showers becoming heavier times, so thunderstorms strong severe time. Your high temperature 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, we expect mostly cloudy skies, again with the scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. The low going down to 73 degrees Fahrenheit. And some regional highs and lows across the Caribbean. Barbados, 88 and 79. In Jamaica, 89 and 81. In Trinidad, 89 and 77. And the Turks and Caicos Islands, 88 and 74. Across North America, Atlanta, 82 and 64. In Boston, 82 and 55. In Miami, 85 and 74. Dallas, Texas, 89 and 70. And Toronto, Canada, 81 and 64. As you go the week, troughing, rich tropical moisture will also continue to support showers and thunderstorms over central and southeastern islands into about Sunday. Northwest Bahamas, a mix of sun and clouds, a few showers. Though temperature daytime will be in the upper 80s, at nighttime in the mid-70s. In a second look, we'll look at the tropics. That puts her up your first look at the weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Carlos.
Thanks, Godfrey. Of course, gaining employment should be the main thrust of any show focused on the labor force. So we are going to find out about more initiatives to help people find and prepare for employment. Here to discuss this with us are Simone Thurston, Public Employment Services Manager at the Department of Labor, and Donavon Powell, the Chief Executive Officer of 242 Jobs. Good morning and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad to have you guys here. Ms. Thurston, are you able to tell us about Labor on the Blocks and what is being accomplished with that program? We've heard a lot about that over the years. Tell us some more about Labor on the Blocks.
Well, Labor on the Blocks 2.0 has been relaunched last year, and it's in an effort to hire persons who are seeking employment opportunities, and it has proven to be extremely successful. Just last year, we hosted a Labor on the Block 2.0. We had another Labor on the Blocks 2.0 in January of this year, and so we've been doing extremely well with those, whereby we invite multiple companies to come out and participate, and it has proven fruitful.
Interesting. So you have Labor on the Blocks. Are there other initiatives that the Department of Labor has to help persons who want to be or who are job seekers who want to be employed? What are some of the other initiatives that you guys are involved with?
Well, first of all, let me say that the Department of Labor Public Employment Services Unit, we have rebranded, we have improved, we have transformed. A few years ago, persons seeking employment would have to come into the Department of Labor and register manually. We have since moved to an online skills bank system, so job seekers are able to sit in the comfort of their homes, log on to jobseekers.bahamas.gov.bs, view our vacancies, and link to any position that they're interested in securing. It also gives job seekers abroad an opportunity to log on and view employment opportunities. And apart from that, we have 3 locations here in New Providence: Rosetta Street, Carmichael Road, and Robinson Road. So there's always that face-to-face available to job seekers.
Indeed. Mr. Powell, tell us about 242 Jobs and the work that you do, because as Ms. Thurston said now, a lot of things are moving online. So tell us about 242 Jobs.
Yes, I just want to commend Ms. Thurston and the entire Department of Labor on the remarkable job that they're doing. 242 Jobs has worked in conjunction with the Department of Labor on many occasions, trying to help job seekers get more access to job opportunities. On 242 Jobs, we have thousands of job opportunities that are available for Bahamians, not only online, that they can be able to work remote from home. We have local jobs. We have freelance opportunities for those persons who are looking to get in the gig economy, as well as we have scholarship listings online, as well as college applications, so people can be able to find more opportunities to be able to make themselves even more employable. We noticed that we have some Bahamians that may not have the skills, so we wanted to raise the awareness of the opportunities that may be available to make them more employable.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So in terms of, you talked about the different categories of work: freelance, contracting jobs, full-time, part-time. What are the industries that you end up having a lot of times as far as jobs that are on your site?
So many of them are related to marketing, sales, administration of work, graphic designers. There's a very high demand right now. as well as like certain accounting, financial jobs on the site right now.
Okay. Ms. Thurston, if you're counseling someone who's looking for a job and you are looking at their resume, what are some of the issues that you would discuss with applicants in order for them to be ready to take advantage of these job opportunities?
We encourage applicants to ensure that their resume is updated, meaning they have a telephone contact that's working on the resume. Their email address is available, and you want to make sure that the resume stands out with those skill set that you may have, your most recent job opportunities. You want to ensure that those type information is on your resume. And so to help with that, last month we launched an employability workshop geared to assist persons with resume writing, interviewing skills and techniques, and that went extremely well. So we intend to do more of those to reach persons and to help them be successful during their interviewing process.
Indeed. Mr. Powell, when persons apply on your site, 242 Jobs, what is your perspective of their readiness? Do you feel as though a lot of persons are putting in good resumes? Do they have good references? Do people have their documents in order? How would you assess what the quality of candidates are that are coming through? And are there any improvements that you're hoping to see as we move forward with this initiative?
Yes, with our database, we have over 70,000 job seekers on the platform. And what we noticed, we have a lot of skilled and very talented Bahamians currently living in Bahamas and also abroad that has a wide array of skill set. And so what I think that the difference is that they do not have the proper articulation of their resume. And what we've built is a resume parsing system. So when they upload their resume, all of the data will pre-populate. And we also have a tool that they can be able to write their resume using AI technology to also improve that so that the systems now are basically rejecting person's resume when they apply. So many times when persons apply for certain jobs in Bahamas and so forth, their resume is not being seen by the HR manager because they have systems in place to reject any resumes that is not qualified. So I urge Bahamians to really focus more on your resume so you can get yourself in the door and then work on that interviewing process so you can actually land the job.
Indeed. I have this last question for both of you. If there was any particular skill set that you would recommend that somebody focus on, or where do you see the opportunities in the market? Both of you operate in conjunction in some levels, but obviously in some levels you have different, what I would call different experiences because of one being private, one being government, but you're still working together. So let me just ask you both, individually though, where do you think the opportunities are? What are the skill sets that people really should be building?
At this time, we are at the Department of Labor. We are trying to steer persons, especially those younger persons, into the green, the orange, the blue economy. Take, for instance, the marine mechanic. We're in need of those persons, the welders, marine welders again. There's a need. We need persons in the, let's say, the chef, the cooks. There are a lot of areas out there that Bahamians need to redirect their interest because the opportunities are there.
Interesting. Mr. Powell?
Yeah, I also agree. And to piggyback on what she said, I think that in the market, persons are looking for a lot of marketing and sales. That's a high growing demand, not only locally, but also abroad, as well as certain online skills that you can be able to do, from translating, from subscribing, to proofreading, simple things that we can be able to do, they can be able to do online so that they can actually have maybe a second or third job from working from home.
I'll ask you guys this very quickly. Do you think we're getting to a place where, like it was in the 80s and 90s, where the average Bahamian who wants to work will be able to get maybe a second job or a part-time job? Do you think that we're almost there?
Yes.
I think we're getting there slowly, and I'll say this, the opportunity is there. There are lots of jobs out there, and so Bahamians just need to take advantage.
Excellent.
Agree.
Excellent. Thank you both so much for being with us again. Simone Thurston, the Public Employment Services Manager at the Department of Labor, and Donavon Powell, the CEO, Chief Executive Officer at 242 Jobs. Thank you so much for being here at Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
for
us.
having me.
Indeed. This is Bahamas at Sunrise. Thank you for joining us. We'll be right back.
Attention customers, next Tuesday, a major hurricane will cause complete confusion and chaos throughout the entire Bahamas. Water, phone, and internet services will be in short supply. Definite data loss is expected to all local and family island businesses.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Be ready with push-to-talk service that keeps you connected with your workforce with a simple push of a button. Contact the experts today at 601-8911 in Nassau or 602-8811 in the Family Island.
Wouldn't it be satisfying to own your own piece of paradise? The most important investment you can make in your life is real estate, and Fidelity has the solution for you. You could become the owner of a home or a lot on any of our beautiful islands. Come and talk to a loan officer and inquire about how you can fund your goals with a loan today. Because we know it means a lot to own a lot. Visit us online at fidelitygroup.com. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or visit any of our branches, or phone 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 for Freeport.
Hi, I'm Ria Christina, and I'm super excited to be the new host of You and Your Money, local international banks that has actually been closing some of their branches. It actually gives me an opportunity to share my views, my take on the financial matters. Even when we think about what's happening globally, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of having to educate business owners as to the importance, the economic impact, and how it is that we can look at improving the Bahamian economy. $1 billion. That's how much we spend every year importing food in this country. It also gives me an opportunity to have conversations, and that's meaningful conversations with thought leaders within our community, even having to see how it is that we can work together, or even the opportunities that may exist for many Bahamians. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the great conversations that's to come.
Welcome back. Human resource management is the strategic approach to nurturing and supporting employees and ensuring a positive workplace environment. We invited the Bahamas Society for Human Resource Management on our Labor Day show today to share their expert advice. Joining us is Esaura Cumberbatch, Chapter President for the Bahamas Society for Human Resource Management. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you for having me, and happy Labor Day, Bahamas.
Yeah, and you look fabulous, may I add.
Thank you, and so do you.
Thank you. So I must ask you the first question. What skills do you think are needed for employees and job seekers in the Bahamas to thrive in the labor market today?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, because skills are very important and it's always something continuous. But I want to start with the foundation. When we think about, our economy, hospitality, financial services, numeracy and literacy skills are key. That's the basic foundation. Even if we go to hospitality, where you have someone working in an industry that may have to take a menu order, you need to be able to document that information in a proper order for, the persons in the kitchen. And then numeracy, of course, cashing persons out, just understanding, how much change to give back, what should come in, those types of things. And then other things, definitely communication is one of the most essential ones.
Absolutely.
Interpersonal in all forms, oral, written, verbal, and I think understanding that in terms of communication, you can then tailor your communication style, because we all don't communicate the same, right?
Right.
And so, you know, that's always important. And the other thing too, I would say two more things, is critical thinking. We live in an era now where things are transforming in this digital age, and you see a lot of social media, fake news. It's very important to be able to determine and decipher what is real or what makes sense from what does not make sense. And so you having a critical mindset is also having an objective mindset, being able to analyze and not being biased in that sense. And then the other one, like I mentioned, would have been adaptability as well. Things are always changing. And so with that, you know, having that skill of being adaptable and flexible, it shows that you are an individual that's open to change. And that's something that employers, they like, because things are not always going to stay the same. But when you have an open mindset and you're open to change and adaptable, things go better in terms of thriving in the workplace.
So we can definitely say CCA, communication, critical thinking, and adapt. There we go.
Love the acronyms, yes, yes.
So culture is very important in all organizations across the Bahamas. Share with us some ways that employees can improve their work environment.
Yeah, so there's this Bahamian saying, I've heard my colleagues say before, that, you know, the fish always stinks from the head. And so the same can go in the work environment when you think about culture. If you have a positive workplace, you know, your employees are going to thrive, they're going to want to come to work, and of course on the back end, you're going to reap and see the rewards. And then if you have a toxic work environment, it's going to be the complete opposite. And so in terms of that, building trust is very important, and that goes both ways. As a leader, your employees have to trust you, and as the employee, you have to trust your leader. You have to trust that, you know, whatever it is being asked of you, it's in your best interest. And then the same goes for a leader in terms of their employees, knowing that they can depend on you, that you're someone that's reliable, and that, you know, anything that's asked of you will be carried out.
Good points. Thought leader John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership. How do you think leaders and their employees can have a mutual beneficial relationship in the work environment?
Yeah. So I love John Maxwell. He always has some great nuggets on leadership, and I do agree that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so with that, again, I'd go back to the whole building the trust. First and foremost, if you don't have that. And then communicating with your employees. Letting your employees know that they can come to you if they have a question and not feel intimidated or, you know, standoffish, but that there's an open door policy. And also, too, checking in with your employees always goes a long way. Building those relationships is essential, because it, you know, when an employee feels that my leader or my manager is invested in me, it goes a long way. Truth be told, we spend a lot of hours at work, right? So who wants to go to work is it 5:30 yet, or is my shift over yet? You want to be in an environment where you can thrive, where you're happy to come to work, and that you're also growing and developing. So I would say definitely having the trust, building those relationships, establishing open communication, and then 2, always being open to getting constructive feedback, again, from your employees, because these are the persons that are actually in the trenches. So you're only seeing it from one perspective because you're not really involved, so to speak, in that. But they can give you some additional insight that would actually help you to build your business.
Now, before you go, I have to ask this last question.
Sure.
Can you share some tips and strategies that job seekers and employees can share to advance in their careers?
Yeah. So it's very simple. I always encourage persons to be continuous learners. Never stop learning. Always look for opportunities to evolve, to set yourself apart, you know, to keep your head up in the game. And so always look for free seminars depending on whatever industry you're in and you want to upskill. Look for opportunities to develop that. The other thing I would definitely say too is finding a coach or a mentor, someone that, you know, would have already went that road and can give you some tips and advice in terms of how you can progress in your career is definitely two things that I would say. So upskilling, always look for opportunities to find new courses to do, whether it's paid for or free. Invest in yourself, and then to finding a coach or mentor.
Well, you dropped some great nuggets this morning, and thank you so much, Esaura, for coming through and giving this interview.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. This is Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.
The islands of the Bahamas. Fly away.
The Euro device is very affordable. It allows you to increase your internet connectivity. You are able to do away with the buffering, say goodbye to the dead spots. It gives them a much more stable connection. Their customers are able to view their digital menus. The establishment is able to stream. It allows for everyone, the customers and the business operators, to have a much more robust and stable internet connectivity.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. So Labor Day, how are you feeling today?
I can't wait to go home and take a rest. I can say that.
I wish I could say the same, but I have my daughter and my niece. I left them sleeping, but I think that they're going to be looking forward to me making sauce and baking Johnny cakes. So I don't think my work is quite done just yet, not just yet. But I do agree with you. I'm gonna do my best to rest today. Rest is important.
Very.
Rest is very, very important. We've got more great stuff in the second half of the show today. We'll be talking with Quintin Laroda from the Department of Labor about labor relations here in the Bahamas.
And Doctors Hospital is here to discuss women's health. But before all that, let's take a second look at weather with Godfrey Burnside.
This is Weather at Sunrise.
Thank you, Danielle, and good morning, Bahamas. Yes, second look at weather at sunrise. Hey guys, you thought we were going home to sleep, and there's a parade today. Get involved, get on the parade and enjoy the Labor Day parade today. In your second look at weather sunrise, the tropics. In the tropics this morning, we have newly formed Tropical Depression number 2. And at 5 a.m. this morning, was located near latitude 27.0 degrees north and 86.5 degrees west, some 285 miles to the west of Fort Myers in Florida. Is moving towards the south at 5 miles per hour. Winds in at 35 miles per hour with higher gusts. We do expect some weakening later today and should degenerate into a low-pressure system by tomorrow. Elsewhere, tropical storm formation expected during the next 5 days. On the local scene, deep layer troughing will create a bit some rich tropical moisture, will create showers and thunderstorms, becoming heavier times, severe times with thunderstorms, particularly with the central and southeastern islands. We're looking for Exuma going straight down to the Turks and Caicos Islands. In the northwest Bahamas, we look pretty good, a mix of sun and clouds, but you can expect some afternoon showers. In the marine forecast today, those winds light and variable, seas 1 to 3 for northwest and central Bahamas, south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet over the southeastern islands. On Saturday, continue light and variable at seas 1 to 3 for northwest and central Bahamas, south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots, sea 2 to 4 feet over the southeastern islands. Down on Sunday, across all the islands, those winds become light and variable, seas 1 to 3 feet. Your tide. Currently have a high tide that happened at 6:55 this morning. Your next low tide will be at 1 p.m. this afternoon. High again this evening at 7:27. Sunset, 7:55 this evening. Rising 1619. UV index 8. Your water temperature 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And your moon phase, we're now moving towards the full moon. As you go to the weekend, northwest Bahamas, mix of sun and clouds. Throughout the central southeastern islands, mostly cloudy skies with showers and thunderstorms widespread. Showers becoming heavier at times, thunderstorms strong severe at times. You may expect some gusty winds and high seas, looking at heavy showers and thunderstorms. So temperature daytime will be in the upper 80s, at nighttime in the mid-70s. That picture of your phone could weather at sunrise. I'm Godfrey Burnside. Back to you, Carlos.
Thanks, Godfrey. Labor Day is an annual holiday to celebrate the achievements of workers and has its origins in the labor union movement. Here to talk to us about the importance of Labor Day and discuss labor relations here in the Bahamas is Mr. Quintin Laroda, Executive Manager at the Ministry of Labor and a member of the National Tripartite Council. Mr. Laroda is, for those of you who don't know, somebody who has worked their way up in the labor field. He is one who has been a union member, he's been a union leader, and he's also been an educator, and I think he still conducts workshops on behalf of the Ministry of Labor. So, Mr. Laroda, good morning. Welcome to the Bahamas at Sunrise. We're glad to have you here on this Labor Day, which I know is a very special day for you and your cohort.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, and Labor Day is indeed special, and I'm looking forward to the march in about an hour or so.
Excellent, excellent. So you're definitely going to need your coffee when you leave here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So talk to us, why is Labor Day significant in the Bahamas? What's your take on that?
Well, Labor Day is extremely important. It not only commemorates what we have done through the labor movement and the contribution to the workers, but it sets a tone as to where we can go, the things we can achieve. So it's a reminder of what we have done, and it's inspiration for where we can go. Because you cannot tell the history of the modern Bahamas without telling the history of labor.
Indeed.
Because every major accomplishment that we have achieved as a nation has been undergirded by the labor movement.
So in terms of your perspective, you've been in the labor movement, as you call it, for a long time, right?
Yes.
And no shit, I got gray hair now too, right? But I don't think I've been at it as long as you. What, in your view, is important about what unions do? Because there are differing feelings and perspectives on unions in the country. In your perspective, what's important about the role of unions?
I think unions are very important because union provides the counterbalance to a capitalist society where things can get out of control if you don't have organizations to say the workers contribute to the profit, to the earnings, and they deserve their fair share. Also, in fighting for the rights of the workers, you enhance the rights of all human beings. And so the labor movement has been important in ensuring that the workers are treated fairly and that they benefit from the economic generation or the generation of profits, that they indeed benefit as well. And they've also been important in ensuring that human beings are treated fairly and are treated right. And so workers' rights and workers' compensation have been one of the major contributions that the unions have made. And of course, unions pressure governments to provide a political environment to open up for democracy, freedom of choice, freedom of association. All these grand ideals have been fought for and have been achieved on the backs of the labor movement.
So in today's environment, what are some of the issues that often come up from your perspective as disputes between workers and the employers in, as we call it, our modern Bahamas? What are some of the things that you see? Obviously, we're not in the 1930s or 40s or even the 60s or 70s. What do you see from your perspective as being some of the major issues that are now occurring?
I think one of the things that I see is lacking, and that's looking at the employers, is an awareness of the laws and the rights of the workers, particularly small businesses, and then for the larger businesses as well, adherence to the industrial agreements that workers have signed. These things are legally binding documents that all should obey. And if you sit at the table and you negotiate these things, then you should understand that you have an obligation to abide by them. Not only a legal obligation, but also a moral one. And I think that is lost sometimes on the employers. For the employees in the Bahamas, we have to create a sense again that we are a country of productive people and raise our level of productivity. We must say to the Bahamian businesses and the international investors, you could come here. Things could be great here because our workforce is prepared, they're ready to go, they take it seriously, they're hard working. And so from the employer's perspective, there needs to be more awareness of the law, the rights of the workers, and adherence to industrial agreements. From the employee's perspective, I think we are a little bit weak on productivity, and that needs to be improved, and we have to have some honest conversations with ourselves as the people of our attitude towards work and work ethic. And I think even the labor movement also could contribute to that dialogue, because this is our people, this is our country. We need to say, brothers and sisters, we need to step up. You can't show up to work at 9, eat breakfast, then work for an hour and stop and go get something else to drink, and fellas on the construction site will take a break and go hit their little joint. No, we need to focus. Honest day's work for honest day's pay is a moral principle contained in Scripture, and we do subscribe to the Judeo-Christian ethic, and so we must have that reflected in all aspects of society, including our work.
I as a so-called capitalist employer, in my other hand, I definitely appreciate you having said it and not me. I'll leave that there. As far as the National Tripartite Council, a lot of people don't know what it is, what it does. I think that there's a, as you say, there's a level of, I don't want to necessarily call it ignorance, but lack of awareness around some of these things that have to do with labor. So talk to us about what the National Tripartite Council is, what its role is, how does it help the labor function and in the employment situation in the Bahamas?
Well, the National Tripartite Council was established by an act of Parliament in 2015, and that was signing on to a convention from the ILO, which encouraged governments to form these tripartite structures for social dialogue. And so on the National Tripartite Council, you have representatives from government, which I'm one of those, representatives from the labor movement, and we have the NCTUB and the TUC, and we are a representative from the employers, so the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce. And so we get together to discuss these national issues related to labor, employment, productivity, the laws of the land, and so forth. And we try to come with a consensus view on those things, and then we advise the Minister of Labor, who would then take that advice to his colleagues in Cabinet. We also have a mandate to assist in the countries having good industrial relations. And so we try to also be an arbiter of disputes that may occur between parties, between unions and management, workers and employees. And so we have a broad and reaching responsibility and an overarching responsibility.
So you mentioned a particular phrase, which is good industrial relations. What does harmonious industrial relations actually look like in the Bahamian environment from your perspective?
I'm very encouraged, being around the labor movement for a long time and then coming into the government. I'm encouraged by the industrial relations, particularly in the public sector. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that O.B. Ferguson and his leadership on creating a memorandum of understanding, joined by Bernard Evans, who was then president of the NCTUB, and signing it with the Progressive Liberal Party, who then became the government. And so there's this understanding between the labor movement and the government, based on that memorandum of understanding, that the government will be open to hearing the concerns of labor, trying to resolve the concerns of labor. And I think that has been very productive. I think in the last year, they've signed about 12 industrial agreements that have been outstanding for a long period of time. And I think that was a major step in resolving some of these issues out there. Also, our Minister of Labor is very open to dialogue with the various trade unions. He meets every quarter with the umbrella unions, and there are 3 of them now. And he also meets all the time, almost monthly. We have meetings with individual trade unions. So there's this access to the political directorate may be unparalleled in our history. Perhaps you have to go back to the early Finland years to see where unions have this kind of access to the political directorate. And so I think that all goes well for industrial relations, and it sets the example for the private sector. Here it is, and also for the government corporations and boards. If you see the guys at the top are saying, look, we have an open door policy with unions. We want to meet with them. We want to be reasonable. We want to give them a seat at the table to discuss these ideas and plans that they may have and see how that fit into the national development and the goals of the country. And so I think I'm very encouraged by that. I would want the public sector to emulate that, the private sector, sorry, to emulate that a bit more. And I think the Bahamas would be headed in the right direction. There also needs to be an understanding from labor leaders that you're a special interest group, and you have to fit into the context of what we're trying to achieve as a country. And so you must come to the table with logic and reason.
It's powerful. Minimum wage. We had an increase that became effective very recently, earlier this year. How important was that, in your view, for what's happening in terms of the national scope of where labor is going?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question, because that was one of the major work of the National Tripartite Council. We had the responsibility of doing the research and making the recommendations on the minimum wage. And so the employers representative, the union representatives, and the government representative got together, and I think provided the government with a very good figure and some good advice on it. And I think we hit the nail on the head in that usually when the minimum wage are increased, so one of the concerns is it will have a negative impact on employment, that businesses will not be able to meet the requirements and have to let people go. That did not happen. And we also found out that about 25% of the workforce would be impacted by this increase, and that gave the average Bahamian an opportunity to at least keep afloat with inflation, if not rise slightly above it. So I think we hit the nail on the head. The work has to begin on the livable wage, which is where the Prime Minister wants to take the country. There's not a lot of research out there on that, but the NTC, we're looking at those things. And so in time, the public will also hear about our work on that as well.
Very quickly, this last question is about Labor Day itself. How will you be celebrating, and how should we celebrate Labor Day?
I believe we should celebrate Labor Day first by commemorating and remembering the contributions of those from the past, on whom shoulders not just the labor movement stand, but to a large extent the country stands. And then we should march in solidarity with our brothers and sisters and celebrate our contributions as laborers, as workers, and as labor leaders. And then one thing I want to say, I want to wish Godspeed and a safe trip to all of those my colleagues who are traveling to Geneva, Switzerland. The Bahamas is taking a very large contingent. Not all are being paid for by the government, because I don't want that to become an issue. Unions are paying for some of their persons, individuals are paying for themselves, and the Bahamas are getting very involved in what takes place at the ILO. We've just recently signed on to 2 conventions. We're trying to make our involvement at the international level more meaningful. And they have the director and Sharon Martin, the chairman of the NTC, they have met with the groups who are traveling, and they've assigned them to certain areas of responsibilities. So I think this trip, led by the Minister of Labor, Keith Bell, is going to be a very productive one.
Indeed. Mr. Laroda, it's been a pleasure. Again, this is Quintin Laroda, who is with us. He's the Executive Manager at the Ministry of Labor and a member of the National Tripartite Council. Thank you so much for being here with us. Happy Labor Day, and we wish you and all of your colleagues indeed Godspeed and good luck in your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Indeed. Again, you're here. This is Bahamas at Sunrise. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back after this break.
Meet Leno, your bridge to the future. Wealth planning, investments, corporate services, trust services, pension administration, fund administration, outsourced accounting, and payroll. When you think of financial solutions, think of Leno. Local or international, company or individual, Leno can help. Our team of skilled professionals has the experience and expertise needed for you to strive. Your goals are our goals and our priority. Leno will guide you to the right financial solution with the knowledge, resources, and support you need. Give us a call at 242-396-3225 or email us at info@lenobahamas.com to get started. Visit our website, www.lenobahamas.com, for more information today. Leno, your bridge to the future.
One thing, two things, blue thing, old things, things that are small, things that are grand, things that fit just right, and in the palm of your hand. Fox Hill Nursery, a large selection of garden supplies. If you can see it in your mind, you can find it at Fox Hill Nursery.
Welcome back. This morning we are discussing Women's Health Month with two highly respected and experienced veterans in the field of women's medicine. One is a gynecologist and obstetrician, and the other is a urogynecologist. So I want to welcome to the show Dr. Dorita Francis-Phillips and Dr. Laura Desrosiers. Welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we hear all the time about the importance of annual visits and regular checkups. Dr. Francis-Phillips, can you speak to and elaborate on why that's important in the area of women's health?
So certainly. For women, it's basically important to have at least annual well women's visit. It gives the patient basically a time for her to build a rapport with her physician. It gives the physician a time basically to understand and get to know the patient, identifying basically any risk factors that that patient may have that may promote certain health concerns. It's also a good time for basically primary prevention, so where we can basically consult and establish some screening techniques so that we can basically avoid certain diseases in the future.
Okay. And what would you say are some of the most common complaints or concerns that women raise with you when they come into your office?
Right, so I think that question basically depends on the patient's age. So the younger patients sometimes may be more concerned about contraception, and so contraception counseling is more important for them. As the women tend to mature, the concerns tend to be about family planning and basically pregnancy or the ability to conceive. And then further concerns for our seasoned women sometimes tend to be menstrual irregularities like heavy menstrual bleeding, secondary to uterine fibroids as such. Also chronic pelvic pain with conditions like endometriosis.
Okay, understood. So Dr. Desrosiers, can you talk a little bit about what urogynecology is and how that differs, what you do, how does that differ from, say, an obstetrician and gynecologist like Dr. Francis-Phillips?
Yeah, that's a great question. So urogynecology first was called FPMRS, so Female Pelvic Medicine and Reconstructive Surgery. Long words, mouthful. People were like, wait, what? And so we said, let's just go ahead and cut it to urogynecology. And so there are two pathways rather. You can go through OBGYN residency and then do which is typically a 4-year residency and then an additional 3 years of training. Or you can do a urology residency, which is 5 years training with 2 additional years of training in urogyn. And you'll be classified as either a female urologist or a urogynecologist.
Okay. Now, I know you've mentioned and you talk a lot about urinary incontinence when it comes to your area of specialty. But what are some warning signs that women should be aware of to say, I may have an issue in that particular way?
Urinary incontinence, I emphasize it because it is a disease process that affects a lot of women. It's a silent disease that that goes ignored for the most part, and we've sort of conditioned ourselves and sometimes our patients to think that that's a normal part of aging. And I want to dismiss that myth. It is not normal, and we have options. So things that you'll see: urinary urgency. I'm going to the restroom more often. Typically, less than 8 times in 24 hours is normal. If you're going more than that, then that's abnormal. Urgency is the sense of not being able to defer the urge to go to the restroom. So if that's happening, where you literally are trying to get your undergarments off and you feel like the urine's coming out, that's abnormal. In addition, nighttime urination is something that we really haven't talked much about, but that typically is a sign that there's something that's going on. Or having urinary hesitancy. You feel the urge, you get there, and all of a sudden you feel like you can't urinate. Right. All of these things are signs that there's something that's going on that needs to be evaluated. Okay.
So going back to you, Dr. Francis-Phillips, you mentioned endometriosis in our earlier discussion. What are some of the warning signs that women should be aware of when it comes to endometriosis?
Okay, so patients with endometriosis can typically present with a variety of symptoms, but the more common ones would include pain during the menstruation. So painful cycles that may actually start a day or two before the onset of menstruation and may last typically into the duration or the first few days of the menstrual cycle. Those are one of the common presentations. We call that dysmenorrhea. Also, patients with endometriosis may have painful intercourse, so having intercourse may be difficult, or they may just have all-around pain in the pelvic area. We call that chronic pelvic pain. Some patients with endometriosis may actually present for the very first time with concerns about infertility. Patients may also have symptoms that may mimic other conditions. We may have symptoms that mimic gastrointestinal conditions such as diarrhea, nausea, constipation, or even painful defecation. They may have symptoms mimicking urinary tract conditions, so painful urination, one of them. They may have simple problems like back pain as well. So the symptoms can vary, but the first 3 symptoms are usually the most common ones, which is basically the pain during the menstruation, pain, chronic pelvic pain, and or pain during intercourse.
Right. So as we have this conversation, it becomes kind of obvious that there's a give and take when it comes to Urogyne and OBGYN. So Dr. Francis-Phillips, can you kind of talk a little bit about how those 2 areas of specialty intersect?
Right, so basically I like to consider the urogynecologist as an older sister to a gynecologist. So basically the younger sister, the gynecologist, would start to see some patients that may present with common female conditions or pelvic floor disorders, be it incontinence, be it a prolapse. And so sometimes we may be able to manage these patients ourselves using some conservative measures. And after a period of managing these patients conservatively, if for a reason the condition is worsening or not improving, that we may need to seek additional resources via the urogynecologist.
Okay. And that makes sense. So, Dr. Desrosiers, how would you say urogynecology addresses those sorts of disorders? So, pelvic floor issues, prolapse, urinary incontinence. Where does Urogyne fit in as a treatment mechanism for those issues?
Yeah, great question. So I feel like our job is to be a support system for the gynecologists and obstetricians who are seeing these patients on the front line. And so it's not that we want them to send us every patient, because I don't think that that's practical, but I think that starting the management with conservative management, and then being there for collaboration. Plenty of times my colleagues will say, hey, listen, I'm seeing somebody, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? They don't need to send me the patient, they're already seeing the patient, but I'm happy to sort of give them consultation over the phone and just discuss with them what may be helpful. So where we can sort of be helpful is giving options in terms of additional diagnostics and different ways to evaluate the patients. There are times when we need to do a CT urogram, for example, and all of those can be, that may not be within their purview, so I can sort of guide through that. And there are times when we need to collaborate together surgically. I do a lot of minimally invasive procedures, which is something that's very important. I think that we need to provide more minimally invasive procedures to the patients on the island, and so I feel like that's where I sort of can come and be of help.
Right, and that makes sense. And it seems like it's just a natural, like I said, a natural hand come hand go in terms of the interaction between the two, and it works in a multidisciplinary space, which I think medicine is continuing to move further and further in that way as people dealing with more complex issues. So that's good to hear. My final question for both of you: why must women take care of their health? So I'll start with you, Dr. Desrosiers, and then we'll end with Dr. Francis-Phillips.
That is a great question. So we are the backbone, not just here, everywhere. Women are the ones that take care of everyone else. They take care of their partners, the children, their parents, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes we get neglected. And it's not because we're doing it on purpose, it's because we want to make sure that we're taking care of everyone else. But we, again, are the backbone. And so if the backbone goes out, then the whole piece will fall apart. So it's very important that we're listening to our bodies, listening and not just saying, I'll take care of it later on, or that's just a part of aging. Right. It's important that we seek the care. If you're having urinary urgency, if there's blood in the urine, if there's things that look abnormal, if you're having chronic pain, or if things are getting worse, you need to seek care, because remember, you are the backbone.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what Dr. Desrosiers mentioned. We do everything in the homes. We're no longer stay-at-home wives. Most of us, we are working, we're career-oriented. And so it becomes sometimes a challenge for women to wear all the different hats. But it is important to take time out for yourself. You may be preventing a whole lot of complications later on. So I advise women to just take a moment, whether it be your birthday month, and that may be a good way to celebrate your birthday by celebrating you. So self-care is important. Just as how we may sometimes take care of ourselves, we do our hairdressing, our nails, it's very important for us to also plug in that time for our well women's visits and our visits to our gynecologist. Yeah,
basically, you're saying to keep the same energy when it comes to your health.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Understood. Dr. Desrosiers, Dr. Francis-Phillips, I want to thank you both for joining us on Bahamas at Sunrise this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise, and we surely did have a good show today.
Indeed, indeed.
I enjoyed all of our guests.
Absolutely.
And they dropped so much nuggets in terms of the employment force and all of that. Especially, this is key with all these high schoolers graduating from school this year and going into the workforce. So a lot of nuggets were dropped today.
And it was also important to have the health segment. And for those of you that want a longer conversation with those doctors, please make sure to tune into You and Your Health this week, and you'll be able to hear a lot more about what they were talking about. Yeah. So your Labor Day, what's your plan? Mr. Laroda says he's getting ready to go march. Where are you gonna march?
No, I don't march. I rush.
You rush?
Yeah, I rush. So I'm a junkanoo at heart. I haven't made it to Bay Street for the big parade as yet. I did do an Independence before.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to make Bay Street for the big parade one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to rush to my kitchen and my bed. So.
Well, that does does it for us here at Bahamas at Sunrise. I'm Danielle Millos, filling in for Davriel Gardner.
Indeed, and Carlos Mackey filling in for Mark Daniels.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great holiday, Bahamas.
Absolutely. Enjoy Labor Day. Bye-bye.